Good morning, students. Welcome to online lecture series of distributed computing system. Last lecture we have seen the RPC, executing the RPC mechanisms and stub generations. Now, today we will see the remote procedure call message, remote method invocation, and what is the difference between this RMI and RPC. So, the RPC messages. So, any remote procedure call contain the client process and server process that are probably on a different computers. Right? The mode of situation between the client and server is that the client requests the server to implement the remote procedure, and server returns the result of the implementation of the concerned procedure to the client. On the basis of this mode of communication, two types of messages are involved in the implementation of RPC. First is call message and second one is reply message. So this call message sent by the client to server and used for requesting execution of a particular remote procedure, while this reply message sent by server to client and used for returning the result of the remote procedure execution. Then this RPC protocol deals only with the specification and interpretation of these two types of messages. Generally, this call message is used to request the implementation of specific remote procedure. The two basic components that are essential for this call messages. The first is identification of information of the remote procedure to be implemented, and second is the arguments required for execution of the procedure. By reply message, the server of an RPC receives a call message from the client. It could be faces one of the different conditions. So the first condition is the server discovered that call message is not understandable to it. This can be occur when call message disturb the RPC protocol. Clearly, server will throw away such calls. Next, the server discovered by the scanning the client's identifier field that client is authorized to use the service. The server will return an unsuccessful reply without worrying to make an attempt to implement the procedure. The next, server finds that the remote program version or procedure number indicated in the remote procedure identifier field of the call message is not accessible with it. Again, the server will return an unsuccessful reply without worrying to make attempt of implement the procedure. So this is the call message and the reply message. The next, RMI. So this RMI is nothing but the remote method invocation. This remote method invocation is the process of activating a method on remotely running object. So RMI offers location transparency and says that it gives the field a method to execute on locally running object. This remote method invocation or this Java RMI provides the mechanism of supporting a distributed computing. So these distributed programs consist of the parts residing in different machines. So RMI should be asynchronous, that is, no immediate results are expected at the invocation time. So here we will see some points related with this RMI. First is the communication between distributed object. So here object-oriented programming language offers the model which is expanded by the object model from a distributed system scenario in order to use the object model in the distributed object within the distributed computing system. The next, object model. An object-oriented program, for example, in Java or in C++, consists of a collection of interacting objects, each of which consists of set of data and a set of the methods. Specific object contained within a distributed system communicates and coordinates with the other distributed objects by means of a method of invocation, arguments, passing, and finally obtain expected outcomes, or can say results. So data contained by the object and the codes of their respective methods are generally encapsulated by the object themselves. In some programming language like C++, Java, programmers may define the objects in such way that their instance variables might be retrieved directly. The next point is object references. So object references are basically used to retrieve the particular respective object. In Java, specific variables that appears to hold an object actually hold the reference to that particular object. To invoke the method in object, the method name and the object reference are given with an essential arguments. The object whose method is invoked or appeal is known as a receiver or a target. Next point is interface. So interface simply offers the definition of signatures of set of methods. Interface offers the definition of signature of set of methods without stating or specifying their implementation. So interfaces do not have any constructors. It defines the type that can be used in order to declare or announce the type of variables of the parameters and return the values of methods. Next is actions. So action is an object-oriented program. It's introduced by an object invoking method in another object. An invocation can consist of additional information. The additional information is arguments required to carry out the method. The invocation method can have the following effects. State of the receiver may be changed. Next, a new object may be instantiated. Next, the further invocation on the methods in other objects may take place. An action chain is a chain of related method invocations, each of which eventually returns. So next point is garbage collection. Space engaged by the object should be made available in a distributed computing scenario when specific objects are not required to all. In Java, when a particular object is no longer required, the space occupied by the particular object can be automatically assigned to the other object involved within the distributed system computing environment. This process is termed as a garbage collection. Next, there's exceptions. So, in some context, in some extent, the remote invocation might fail for a reason allied with invoking objects being a different computer system or a particular process from the invoker. For instance, the process of the remote object might have crashed or may be excessively busy in order to reply, or invocation or result may be lost. Example of latter are attempt to read beyond end of file or access a file deprived of the exact authorization and permission. The Corba ideal offers the notation of specifying applications level exceptions. So these Corba client programs must be positioned to handle the exceptions. For example, simple client program in C++ will make use of an exception mechanism in C++. There is a difference between RPC and RMI. So RPC is nothing but a remote procedure called RMI. It is a remote method invocation. So this RPC allow a user to call process which will be run on a different computer system other than the computer system used by the user. While RMI lets user invokes the process which will be run on a different computer systems other than the computer system used by the user. The third one is RPC invokes the function while RMI invokes the method. Next difference is RPC is not object oriented while the RMI is object oriented. The fifth one is RPC does not deal with the object. It calls specific subroutines which are already established. Therefore, it is not object oriented. While RMI makes use of object oriented paradigms where the user need to know the object and the method of the object that user needs to know. And last, that is RPC, a relatively old protocol, and it is based on the C language. You can say hence it is inheriting its paradigms, while RMI is developed by the Java and make use of its virtual machine. The use of its RMI is exclusive to Java applications for calling methods on a remote computer system. So in the next session, we will see the next topics.